Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Ambassador.
Good morning, Wendy. It's a pleasure to be here with you again.
Yes, and it's great to have you in studio with us to discuss this. We've been doing it virtually for far too long, so it's great to see you in person. Now, the issue of the freedom of movement has long been talked about. We see it in some of the various areas. But now the Secretariat has decided that we need to move this process forward with a bit more vigor. Well, lots more vigor. And a special task force has been set up, and you're the man in charge. Tell me all about it.
Well, it's a lot more significant than just the Secretariat. In fact, at our Heads of Government conference in Trinidad and Tobago in July of this year, and that was a very special conference because we were marking the 50th anniversary of CARICOM. Our heads felt that the time had come and this was the right occasion to really take a big step forward. And so they made an historic decision at that conference in favor of full freedom of movement across CARICOM. And I brought with me the actual text of the head's decision, and I think it's so important that I really want to share it with the Barbadian people because we need to start getting our heads around this decision and what is going to unfold. So,
Sure, go right ahead.
This is what they said. Recalling the St. Anne's Declaration issued at the 18th special meeting of the conference in December of 2018, which called for full free movement by member states so willing by 2021, having received a presentation from the CARICOM private sector organization affirming support for full freedom of movement of CARICOM Nationals, the Conference of Heads of Government agreed to work towards the free movement of all CARICOM Nationals within the community by 31st of March 2024. The conference further agreed that there are certain basic guarantees that should be afforded to all CARICOM Nationals exercising their right to freely move and remain indefinitely in another member state of the community. The Conference of Heads also agreed that any appropriate amendments to the revised treaty to provide for the attendant rights of CARICOM Nationals exercising their right to free movement within the community and to accommodate the concerns of all member states shall be completed by March of 2024.
So we just basically have a few more months before all of this is put in place. Now, they initially would have been a few areas that people wanted to have ironed out for this movement to be successful. And one of those areas was that of social security in terms of when individuals work, the whole issue of taxes, which country would they be paid into, etc. Will your task force be helping to iron out some of these issues? Because it is all well and good for me to move and work in another state, in another country, but at the end of the day, you still want to know that there are certain rights that you can still claim in either country.
Yes, well, so the decision made special reference to basic guarantees or attendant rights that will be granted to all CARICOM nationals who exercise this right to move to another member state, to live there indefinitely, and to work. And so, yes, the Intergovernmental Task Force has been charged with thinking through all of the issues surrounding this decision and coming up with the modalities to implement this decision by the end of March next year. We are also charged with coming up with the amendments to the
the treaty.
revised Treaty of Chaguaramas that would be required. So,
Okay.
so I've been asked to chair the task force. We've had, under my chairmanship, we've had 2 meetings thus far.
How large is it?
Oh, it's a very large task force. It's all of the member states, representation from all of the member states.
All at the ambassadorial level?
No, not necessarily. Some ambassadors, but member states have determined their own representation. The task force also has a drafting committee of legislative drafters, and that committee will be meeting on. That committee has already met, but it will be meeting on Thursday of this week to really get its teeth into beginning to see what the amendments to the treaty would look like. That drafting committee would be responsible for producing the actual amendments to the treaty. But to get to your specific question about Social Security, the good thing about where we are now in operationalizing this decision is that we have had about 20 years experience with the CARICOM Skilled Nationals regime.
Yes.
Right? So if we think about this decision is kind of taking what we have already done to a higher level. So for the last 20 years, we have had the rights of establishment regime where a CARICOM national was at liberty to come into another member state if he or she was coming to develop a business or to be self-employed. Also, we had the skilled national regime where if you were qualified in certain skills, you could get your CARICOM skills certificate and you could move and you could work in another member state without the need for a work permit. So because we had those programs in place, we had to develop things like how do we deal with the national insurance and social security. So those arrangements are already in place. We already have arrangements in place where a national moves from one member state to another member state. The social security agencies connect with each other. And in terms of payment of major benefits like pensions, for example, or disability benefits, the major things, we are already dealing with that. The agencies already collaborate with each other, share the information, and so that's already in place. What is not in place is the more minor benefits like sickness benefits and so forth. So some additional work would have to be done to build out the arrangements that are already there.
And things like leave for paternity and maternity.
Yes, well, I would imagine so, you know. But
Stick a pin.
Yeah.
What about the citizenship of the child? You've moved from Barbados to Antigua and you've had a child in that location. Can that child be afforded dual citizenship?
Yeah, well, that's already in place.
Okay.
That's already in place. This decision speaks to all CARICOM nationals. So, you know, in the past with the skilled national, it was the skilled national who had the rights.
Yes.
And if he moved and he took his wife or his children or his dependent parents with him or her, they got certain what we call contingent rights.
Yes.
But under this new regime, every CARICOM national,
Will have
from the
full
baby, from the
Very
baby
good.
to the
Very
grandparent, they have the primary rights. You know, the right to move, etc., etc. And then so the decision talks about the basic guarantees. So you move, you are a primary school age child. What are your rights? So we now have to work out. A CARICOM child who moves, will they be afforded treatment, accommodation in the primary
setting,
school?
yes.
If there's a pre-primary program, will they be will they be accommodated on the same basis as the citizen of the country that they have moved to? So these are some of the things we have to work out
And will
now.
they, and how difficult will it be for them to get integrated into the school system? Like, what do we have to take with us to say, okay, yes, you can go back into, if you go mid-school term, yes, we will accommodate you at the level you're at, et cetera, or will they want to put children back because one entity might believe, well, our structure of teaching is a little different to yours? You know, these are things that would concern parents.
Well,
because
you're taking it even a step further.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we have to determine.
if they can.
Well, you know, we have to determine what things will be what services will be guaranteed to persons who move. And when I say guaranteed, what services will be granted to them on the same terms as applies
to the
to a
nationals of the
citizen
country.
of the
Yep.
country. So, for example, healthcare.
Was just coming to
Primary health care. A person who moves, should they be given the same access to health care as a citizen of the country? So, for example, in our Barbados system, basically we don't pay for primary health care, you know, the polyclinics are free, etc. Should a national coming into Barbados to live indefinitely, should they be treated the same way as a Barbadian where primary healthcare is concerned? We have access to drugs on the Barbados drug system, for example. Secondary education. Should they be treated the same way as Barbadian students? And if
tertiary.
so, well, tertiary might be probably a bridge too far.
Okay.
Because, you know, in Barbados, we are probably the only CARICOM country that provides free tertiary
yes.
education. So tertiary would probably be a bridge too far. But school children, let's say up to the age of 16, should they be accommodated in the secondary school system on the same terms
Yes.
as the citizen?
So you all really have your work cut out, because there's so many different parameters and areas that have to be looked at in a very, very comprehensive way, because we know CARICOM has been around 50 years, and a treaty is not something that one can be changing willy-nilly. So whatever is here now, we're hoping will take us at least 5-10 years on.
Or more. But I think the good thing is, as I said, is that we have a track record. So we're not coming to this, you know,
You're not green.
Yes, we're not green. Because of all those years of operating the skills national regime, we have an idea of what kind of rights that a national who moves really has to be accorded if they're to be able to live properly in the member state. And then the other thing to bear in mind is that it cuts both ways. So you are accommodating nationals from other countries coming in, but your own nationals, they're moving too. They're moving to greener pastures.
No.
Or what they perceive to be greener pastures.
In terms of that, we have long complained about brain drain within the region going internationally. But now, in terms of movement between the islands, do you see it creating any immigration or population issues? Like, say, for example, Guyana, that's doing so well now with oil. Can you foresee an influx of other nationals into Guyana? Will there be any restrictions in terms of numbers in the movement, anything like that? Because you still have to have controls on your economy, on your crime, on a number of areas. So how are you going to try to keep that balance?
Well, okay, you have asked several questions.
Yes.
There. Okay, but let me say first of all that yes, there will be still some built-in controls and restrictions. So it isn't that, you know, it's just a free-for-all. First of all, there are two overriding principles that a CARICOM country can refuse someone coming in on national security grounds. So, for example, if the person is a criminal or they have a criminal record, you can refuse them. Secondly,
but my record has been expunged.
yeah.
Does that not still give
yes,
me
of
a
course,
right to move?
Of course.
Okay,
What I'm saying is, you can still exercise some discretion and judgment. But if clearly the person is an undesirable that you, from a national security point of view, you would not want in your country, you have the right to refuse them. Similarly, if the person is likely to become a charge on the public purse, a person you just can't move to say, well, I come to enjoy your welfare system, right? you can be restricted. And then the treaty also has built into it where, say, a country was experiencing balance of payment problems, severe governmental financial stress, that you could actually temporarily suspend any of these programs. But that's like a worst case scenario.
Yes.
But I like where you're coming from as well, because many people, when they think about free movement, they think about, people are going to be coming in and it's going to be a problem. But more and more we are coming to recognize that all of these CARICOM countries, including Barbados, are underpopulated. And in fact, the greater danger might be losing people. In fact, people coming in, especially if they're bringing skills with them, is perhaps something that you really want to welcome, because it is going to add to your economy. I mean, Barbados has done an analysis of our own national situation, which tells us that we probably need to be operating at an optimum economic level. We probably need another 100,000 people, young, economically active people, contributing to the economy, paying taxes, making payments into the national insurance system, because we have an aging population, right?
We do.
So I think there's going to be a lot of rethinking throughout CARICOM, where people are more going to recognize, look, the greater danger is not people coming in. The greater danger is that our people might go out to other member states. But I think the way to think about this is that we have to think about CARICOM as one space,
and we want to see it
one
all grow
economy,
and flourish.
Yes. So the idea of the brain drain really is an idea for external to the Caribbean, but within our region, no, we are all in this together.
I want to thank you so much. One nation, one community. That's who we are.
One love.
One love across CARICOM. I want to thank you, Ambassador Comissiong, for joining me this morning to discuss the full freedom of movement, and best of luck to you at that meeting. There's lots of work to be done between now and March.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Wendy.
Morning, morning, morning.